there was like 5 or 6 of us in the school. And at the time I was on SWAT. I was one of the snipers. So we put a plan together. I went and got my sniper rifle out of the trunk of my cruiser. I said, here's the way it's going to work, guys. I said, you're all going to cross the water. I'm going to cover you with the sniper rifle. And then when you get through, you come up here, take my rifle and cover me and my dog when you go through the water. And that was pretty much every night. I had my pretty sad K-9 school. You got your sniper rifle out half the time because you're so scared of alligators.
This is 56, Pinellas County Sheriff's Office podcast. I'm Ricky Butler, and I'm once again joined by my colleagues and co-hosts, Laura Sullivan and Ashley Cooley. We are all civilians in the communications and public education section of the Sheriff's Office, and excited to bring you episode 2. I can't believe we're actually recording a second episode already.
And technically kind of a third because we had episode 0.
We did.
It was our tiny little episode.
Speaking of which, if you are listening for the first time, I would encourage you to listen to episode 0 for some important context, like the who, what, where, when, why. But briefly, why 56? I'll cover this for the first couple, all right?
Then you're on your own.
Then then y'all have to figure it out and be big kids. But 56 is a 10 code, and a 10 code is one of the 2 primary types of codes that law enforcement uses on the radio. Some that you're familiar with may be like 10-4 or 10-20, but 1056 here at the Sheriff's Office means meet or meet up, which is what we do with this podcast. We meet members of the agency, talk about who they are, what they do, and why, and have a lot of fun along the way. So that's what we're doing here with 56. That's what it means. But before we get into our excellent guest, I think we owe everyone a big thank you. We owe everyone a big thank you for tuning in to listen to our first ever episode. We had a great conversation with Detective Ron Chalmers of our cold case unit. We talked about his time at Reno, the fact that he was never part of Reno 911, but still had the shorts.
He had the shorts, but not the boots.
And of course, we spent a bulk amount of that time talking about the incredible breakthroughs they've had on a couple cold cases. One was a 6 or 7 year old unidentified John Doe case, and then the other was a 36-year-old homicide from back in 1987. So they solved both of those with genetic genealogy, which is a really, I wouldn't say it's new, but it's definitely an up-and-coming tool for law enforcement.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of cold cases are going to be cleared using genetic genealogy. And it's
so
really interesting stuff.
We plan on talking to Ron some more because he was giving us some previews about some other cases they have.
Yeah.
So if you have not listened to episode 1, finish this one first and then go back and listen to learn about Ron and the cold case unit and the great work they do. Now, I will say it is pretty tough. Like, this is harder than I thought it was going to be. Like starting a podcast is stressful because it's like there's a lot of parts and pieces. We have the technical side covered. But then, getting the right people in here to perk people's interest and get them listening is tough. Mm-hmm. But we're starting strong. And it's not that it's not going to be great guests, but we have to get the hook. We got to get people in so they know that no matter what we talk about, it's going to be interesting and it's going to be a fun conversation. Or it's like Laura likes to say, it's like eavesdropping on a fun conversation. We can make any conversation fun. But we are especially excited for our guests. We have big shoes to fill trying to beat out Ron Chalmers, but we have the top dog, king of the canines, Sergeant Mike Kilian, joining us as our second guest on 56. And I am really excited about this one. But before we get into it, Ashley has a question for all of us. We have a question that sort of levels the playing field to kind of get the conversation going, and we're all going to answer it so Mike doesn't feel singled out. So, Ashley, what is your question?
So, it doesn't start as a question, but I got a text message the other day. And it said, we play tennis tomorrow. You in? So it was a spam text message. Are you the type of person that interacts with spam calls and spam text messages, or no? And why?
I rarely interact with anybody if I can avoid it. So if I don't know them, I'm not the one that's going to mess with them. Although it might be interesting. It might be fun.
It is for some people. That's why I'm asking.
I never get those.
No?
I get like some link. It's not like a question like that. But if I did, I would there's a really good chance I would mess with them.
I thought
that sounds like you.
Yeah, because why not? That's such an odd, I feel like these people that come up with these scams, I mean, obviously they're smarter than we are because we're working to earn our money and they're just scamming people.
Right.
But tennis? Do you guys play tennis?
Yes. And then I've also got one that was like, hey, Heather, I met you at the party. I just wanted to check in and see how you're doing.
I mean, that's very presumptuous of your name.
I know.
I think at this point I've been so scared, especially since I've started working here, by all the "don't fall for a scam" things that we put out, that I wouldn't respond, or in case I accidentally clicked on the link or something.
Laura's afraid. She just pushes her phone away from the table, just kind of cowers. Just like I don't want to.
That's how I am with it. Like, and then like if I don't know that number, I don't answer. Mm-hmm. I don't answer that phone. Like I won't do it. But I know some people love to pick the phone up and mess with them.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I mean we talked to some of our residents that are more susceptible to scams, and it's like, listen, if you don't know the number, don't answer it. If it's somebody that you should be talking to, maybe they'll leave a message.
Yeah.
I mean that's even with now iPhones at least pop up scam probable.
Yeah, Android too.
Yeah, so I don't know how that world works.
Well. Yeah,
Mike, you haven't had a chance to weigh in. We've just dominated this conversation.
This is the point,
I'm just kind of depressed. I don't get any of those kind of text messages from anybody.
No, I'll send you a few.
Nobody wants to play tennis with
Everybody's
you.
spamming me, so I can't even answer anybody. So I got that going for myself.
Nobody wants to play tennis with Mike. But you would
the
mess
car
with him, though, wouldn't you?
warranty.
I probably would not. I probably wouldn't. It's
You're gonna
I have too
ignore
much aggravation in my life. The fact that spam people, I'd be like, just shut up and go away. Honestly, that's.
So even the phone calls you get with like car
I hang up
warranties
on them
and stuff,
quickly.
you do.
Hit. Nope. No reply.
I mean, you answer the phone and nobody talks. It's like done.
Yes.
Do you know anybody who does that? Who will mess with them?
Brennan.
Brennan.
Brennan in the shadows would mess with them. Well, I mean, like I said, I would too if it's just a lot of times you're not even looking at your phone if you get a text right away sometimes. And by the time you get to it later.
Not to mention, you don't want to talk to a lot of people who are actually calling you for real.
That's
right.
That's
So
right.
for a spam
No lie
call,
detected.
Actual coworkers. I need
exactly.
friends.
It's like, you look at that caller ID, you're like, oh man.
That's a
Here
good
we go.
point. That's a good
And
point.
then what if I actually had to play tennis once I interacted? I don't know if I'm up for that.
I don't know. That's what Brennan was like. Say
Pickleball,
absolutely.
maybe.
I'll meet you tomorrow.
That would be. I would want to know what is the end game with a tennis.
But you want to
scam.
win.
Well, no, but I mean, what,
It's like the money scam.
yeah, like what do you?
I don't
Wait.
know.
I think it's a racket.
Oh, nice.
Sorry.
That was actually really
That was
good.
better than mine.
That was good. But I don't know. I just
Yeah, I do wonder what.
I feel left out now because I don't get them.
Really?
I'll get the ones that are like messed up, like it tries to look like your bank or something,
Yeah.
which is pretty easy because I don't bank with
Yeah, whoever.
whatever it is, But that's good stuff.
Yeah.
Solid question.
It was.
I like
There
it.
you go.
All right, let's get into what the paying customers want to hear. All about Sergeant Mike Kilian, and before we get into it, I have to share a little personal tidbit.
Uh-oh.
Yep. And you
Get
can
the Kleenex.
You can tell you can tell your Ricky story too if you want, but since I'm dragging, I figured. But so I started here at the sheriff's office 10 years ago this month actually, and time flies. And when I started, it was during a time that there was some transition happening with how we handle our PR type communications. The sheriff was in the midst of making some changes. And in addition to that, we were trying to figure out, social media, i.e. Facebook back then was what we had, and it was new. So it was like, Mike's like,
It's still pretty new,
I had
isn't
a
it?
MySpace, yeah. So it was all pretty new to law enforcement in general. So trying to figure out how to use it is what I was tasked with in the midst of everything else. And up to that point, we're using it to put out things that have happened. They're reactionary. It's a press conference, it's a press release, it's photos of an event that had happened. But then we were just like, well, we really need to try to be more kind of proactive and feature the men and women of the sheriff's office and talk about what we're doing. And of course, a very early stage is what we do today, or what Ashley does today. But anyway, it is, and I'm not saying this in a negative way, from a negative perspective, but it is very difficult as a civilian to work alongside law enforcement. Like it is difficult. Everyone was very welcoming, very nice. It's not that. It's just there's a dividing line there. Like there's law enforcement is complicated. You have to understand it. You have to live it. You can't just take a test and then you understand. So it was very difficult being the new guy, making inroads, trying to figure out how we want to generate content, what we want it to be. And Mike was the corporal in K-9 at the time when I started. And Mike was actually like, it sounds lame, but he was like my first friend at PCSO.
All right.
Because think he understood what I was trying to do, and I don't know if he still. I don't know. You may not still, but Mike knew that whatever we were trying to do was good for the sheriff's office. So he was always very welcoming and accommodating, and let me come out to try to cover different things, even though I didn't know what I was going to do with the content. And I just wanted to recognize you for that and say thank you, because we really that was the basis of everything we do, is a relationship that we built with K9. And we will always have a great relationship with K9 in PR because of Mike and all the guys out there, guys and gals, because listen, dogs.
It's not the people, it's the dogs. I get it.
Let's be real. Nobody really wants to see any of y'all. They just want to see the dogs. But anyway, I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you, Ricky. I really appreciate that.
So you should be sending Mike text messages about going to tennis?
Yeah, we
and
should.
You're not?
I should be inviting Mike to play tennis.
Let me just tell you now, I can't play tennis.
Yeah. I can't either. So that could
It's gonna be a
actually
bad day for both.
Pretty entertaining.
Will your knees take it?
Yeah, maybe not.
It's true. Maybe not.
Let's do something easier.
Something easier. Yeah, a golf cart ride or something.
There you go. Now you're talking.
Golf cart ride. So anyway, just wanted to throw it out there.
Thank you, Ricky.
We appreciate everything that you do for us. So
Thank you.
just start off with a nice suck up so we can have a good conversation. So, Mike, you've been in the world of law enforcement for 33 years.
That's correct. Yep, 33 years.
That's as long as I've been alive.
Baby.
Now you're
too.
trying to hurt me. You started out, okay, now I get it. You
nice.
start out all
Around us.
nice
I
and then
start
just
nice,
destroy me.
and then I can cut them down. So you've been you've done a little bit of everything.
Yes,
so
I've been very fortunate.
You started your career at Pasco County, up north of here, when you were 19. Started at the jail.
That's correct. Yeah, 19 years old, and I desperately wanted to be a patrol deputy, and the sheriff said, "Not a chance, pal. You're going to the jail to learn how to grow up and work around inmates." And when it first happened, I was so upset. I was like, "No, I didn't sign up to work in a jail. I want to be on the road." And in hindsight, years later, I was like, "Thank goodness he put me in the jail." At 19 years old, I had no idea what life was really about until I spent a year with inmates, and you start understanding human behavior a lot better. So I'm a big proponent of that, starting people off in the jail real young.
Interesting, and I guess there's this, and it doesn't really, it's not a real thing, but there is that. And I suppose it could vary agency to agency, but there is this sort of stigma where law enforcement and corrections are not on a level playing field. While we all know that they're both unique, they both have unique challenges, and they both do important work. And of course, for us, they're equal here at the sheriff's office. But that is interesting because I've heard that before, and I guess that's more of an old school mentality, perhaps, or it may vary by jurisdiction. That they'll say, "Hey, kid, you need to start at the jail. You need to learn how to talk to people."
Well, for me personally, it made me a much stronger deputy. It made me a much more efficient deputy. And even when I went to training, our training division or unit are put together with the correction side and law enforcement side. And I worked so well with the corrections people, and I gave them respect that they deserve because I had worked in that facility with those facilities before. So I know what a tough job they have, where I think sometimes they don't get the respect they deserve.
Right.
And again, having done that, been there, I'd never want to go back there again because it's such a tough job. It's like, man, I give them all the credit in the world in the jail.
Yeah,
in the jail.
Perspective is important. So I think you had a fun story from your first day.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So I was brand new, and I went to the booking section, and my FTO was telling me how to do things, and I'm following around. Again, 19 years old, I had no idea. So we were working the drunk tank, booking, running around, fingerprinting inmates, and my FTO showed me how to do that. And this guy comes in, and he was a nice fellow. The guy was just drunk. He was real friendly, and I'm talking to him, fingerprinting him, and not realizing every time I had fingerprinted his left hand, so I've got his right hand on going finger to finger, and he keeps patting me on the back. Yeah, you're such a nice guy. I'm like, oh, great. I'm thinking I'm doing a great job. So
I see where this
about
is going.
3 hours. About 3 hours later, my FTO comes up. He goes, "Hey, dummy." I'm like, "Oh boy, I'm in trouble." This didn't take long. 3 hours of the job. And
right.
He goes, "Go into the bathroom and look at your back." And I mean, it was just cover of like 10 handprints, fingerprints all over. And we wore white shirts.
Oh boy.
So that didn't help. And I knew I had been gotten at that point. That inmate was not my buddy. He was not being friendly. He knew that hand was covered in ink, and he just started covering my shirt, my white shirt. And so
that's that character building.
Learning experience.
You never let anybody pat you on the back again?
Yeah, that didn't happen again. That very good lesson learned on that one.
That is awesome. So how long did you spend working in the jail before you went up the road?
1 year.
1 year.
1 year.
1 year, like on the dot?
Probably about just shy of 1 year, like by days. And then I was fortunate enough to get a phone call from the Citrus County Sheriff's Office. They wanted me. So
Okay.
I said bye to Pasco and moved up to Citrus.
So you never ended up working the road in Pasco.
No.
Got it.
Went
Okay.
straight to Citrus. Yep.
Good old Citrus County.
Oh yes.
Who was the sheriff when you got hired?
Charles S. Dean.
Oh man,
Sheriff Dean.
I got to tell you something for you young whippersnappers, because I happen to know Sheriff Dean. After he was done being sheriff, he went up to Tallahassee. He was a Florida State senator for I think 8 years. I think he had a full 8 years.
Yep.
And that man, we have some mutual friends, and that guy was.
When I got hired by him, you had to meet him personally. So I remember walking into his office, and now I'm a 20-year-old kid, so I'm still really not far past 19 at this point. And I walked in his office, and he had a massive office with gun cabinets everywhere, all around his desk. He had deer heads and stuff up, and I'm like, whoa. And he's a large man. He's like 6'4", just a very intimidating fella. And I remember he interviewed me personally, and I remember I felt so nervous. That was probably the most nervous interview I'd ever been involved in. And he asked me questions that nowadays you're just kind of like, he's like, what church do you go to? Stuff like that. I'm like, Mike, start thinking, pal. Start thinking of something. The local one here, sir. That's the church.
First Baptist Church is Citrus County.
pretty
Good
safe.
guess. Good guess.
And after I was hired, I did go to the First Baptist Church of Inverness.
There it is. All right, Inverness. Good.
Oh, yes.
He is a character. And his Senate office had deer heads, and couldn't have gun cabinets in there, but the deer heads.
You knew exactly where you stood. When
Yeah.
you worked for him, he did not skirt around things. He was very direct, and which made it really good to work for him because the expectations were there, kind of like Sheriff Colterri, honestly.
Oh, 100%.
The expectations
You don't have to
are there.
wonder where he's at.
Nope.
Which saves a lot of time.
Absolutely.
So Citrus, it's got to be a different place to work,
Especially back then.
right?
We're talking 1991 now.
I was one, if you're wondering.
Killing me,
Me
Ricky.
too.
Yeah. Okay, I'm leaving. I don't want to do this podcast anymore. This
Yeah,
is not
we
fun.
can get rid of them and just you and I talk. We can catch the same references.
Actually, you know what? We can retire too. Ricky.
Funny.
Well, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went off
Well,
and did
had
like
you
freelance
stayed-
stuff for 15 years, but
I'm still trying to talk Lauren to coming back to the road. It's gonna happen. I'm telling you. It's gonna
I
happen.
don't know. I get to do all the fun stuff now and then just
Yeah.
write about it without getting shot at.
I guess it's a perk,
Too often.
yes.
Too often. Yeah.
That's fantastic. All right.
Very rural though. Very
Yeah.
rural area at the time.
I love saying
And-
that word, rural.
Rural.
I hate it.
Sorry, I won't use that again. Ashley.
No, we don't say a lot.
It's just difficult to say.
It's very country.
So in rural Citrus.
but at the time, there was only 4 deputies working the street, so there's only 4 of us county
the whole
wide. In
county?
the whole county, that was it. 4 of us.
That's
2 on each
that's a
side.
big county.
How long top speed from one end of the county to the other if you needed 94?
If you needed a backup up there,
Yeah.
it took probably
your job.
He translated.
15, 20 minutes to get it back up. And that's on a good day. If the other person's on a domestic or a DUI, you're talking the other side of the county, so you're talking about half an hour out. So once again, it kind of go back to my jail days. I learned how to talk to people in the jail, and working in a not very rural
Country.
country area.
Non-urban.
You learn how to talk to people. You know, you're there by yourself, and you
Yeah.
get these people who are drunk in their house, and they're like, "I'm not going to jail." You're like, "Well, I got
Surprise.
probable cause. You're going to have to go." And it's a lot easier, I found, talking people into handcuffs than fighting people into handcuffs.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you learn that in a smaller agency like that. It was. I'm so grateful for the experiences I had there because it was such a great place to work, and I learned so much.
Well,
I bet.
that's gonna make you a better. I mean, on one side, you have to wait a bit for backup, but you learn those skills, and then if you find yourself at a larger agency, you know,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
How many people did you say for the whole county?
4.
4.
Yep.
That's
Plus a
like
sergeant. Plus a
sizable
sergeant.
county.
But not on at any given moment.
At one time, 4 of us.
On
duty.
Like on duty. Okay. I thought you meant like
That's
all
it.
shifts,
Yeah.
everything. I was like, that's like
When
one
I
a day.
started-
When
Would
I
you-
started, we had a total of 70 deputies, including the jail.
Oh my.
including the jail.
Including the jail.
Yep.
Wow.
Oh yeah, you appreciated backup. There's no better sound than that siren coming when you needed help.
Bet you got into some hairy situations up there.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
there were some days. There were some days that you're just like, what am I doing here? Some rough ones.
What was one of the worst ones?
Yeah, give us some.
Probably the worst one for me was a domestic, where it seems like in law enforcement, and again, you learn these things as you go. The calls that aren't hot calls turn into the nightmare calls for us.
Right.
The hot calls, a person with a weapon or something like that. Everybody's got all 4 of us at the time. We're going to something like that, like, hey, send everybody, all 4 of us. But this particular call, domestic, I was by myself, and the suspect had already left the house allegedly, according to the call taker. As I pulled up out front, I quickly realized it's, again, very open area, probably about a 5-acre tract. So I pulled down the driveway, and the guy came running out, ripping his shirt off, screaming, wanting to fight me. I'm like, oh, this isn't good. This isn't good. And again, get on your radio, call for help. But it's like, yeah, isn't that cute? Somebody's coming to see you in a little while.
That's why I'm not a deputy. I just lock the doors.
I mean, he took off his shirt. He meant business.
He wanted to really go. So he and I ended up on the ground fighting with one another. Pepper spray was flying everywhere. And, a 3, 4, 5 minute fight's a long time anyway. So we're minutes into this fight now. And it's kind of an even back and forth. And his brother came running out of the house and he tried punching me while I was on the ground. And again, this is 1991. So his dad came running out with a VCR camera. I'm not making this up, Ricky.
The whole family.
It looked like a Channel 13 camera nowadays.
What?
Those really huge ones. He's trying to video me. He's yelling, "I got you on camera, man. You're going to jail."
So that's not a new thing.
Oh no, that was happening in 1991.
Yeah, just bigger cameras.
So
they have bigger muscles.
Yeah, isn't it weird how you go surreal moments? You're looking at somebody going, "What a camera! Whoa, look at the size of that." I'm fighting with this guy, and so I actually had to pull my gun out and tell the brother to get back because he kept trying to punch me. So I got this guy on the ground, and I remember laying there, and I was just like, "Come on, somebody get to me!" Now all these people are outside, all family, they're all coming over, and I remember one of our detectives was off duty at the time on his way to Inverness from Homicide, and he heard the call come out. So Wally came, an old Crown Vic, he had a little bubble light on the dashboard, and I remember hearing the siren getting louder and louder. I'm like, oh, thank God, somebody's coming. And I remember watching Wally drive through this 5-acre track, looked like Dukes of Hazzard, just flying up, blue lights flying all over the interior of the car, all over the place, and he jumped out, but that was. I remember afterwards just laying on the ground. Everybody, the other 3 guys got there, and we got the guy in custody. I remember just laying there, like, man, maybe this is not such a great idea, law enforcement. What am I doing here? But that was a scary one. That was probably one of the scariest ones for me. Like, holy crap! And
yeah, I mean, you have to be resourceful. I mean, I guess I hear that now, and I think, well, this is how a story we're going to hear about in the news starts, as far as a significant use of force,
right?
But that's not the goal.
No, not at all.
We just want to get the guy in custody and be done with it.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And, like I say, it's always the ones that you don't realize. You're like, oh, this will be an easy one. I'll get out there, take the report, see if I can find a guy later on, and you get out of your car, and he was
still there,
ready to go. That's what made it so much fun coming here when I got here, because the resources. And I remember sitting in one of the first read-offs, and I get an FTO, and they're like, "Hey, we're kind of shorthanded tonight. There's only 60 of us working." I'm like, aren't you cute? Only 60 of us working.
Wait, they're serious?
The whole agency's working, and the jail guys are out right now.
Wow. So what else? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of great citrus times. And
you were in SWAT and Citrus?
Yes, I was on the SWAT team. Yeah, I was on the SWAT team up there for 10 years, and then 3 years here in Pinellas. Wow. So we had some call-outs were a little bit different back then. Everything was dynamic entries and stuff like that.
Now, it's still a part-time, obviously,
yes.
unit.
It's still a part-time team. We're very active team, barricaded subjects, suicidal subjects, search warrants. We executed all of them for the sheriff's office.
So when you say it was, more dynamic entry and things, what does that mean?
Nowadays, we're much safer the way we do things. I think it's much smarter the way we do them. We do breach and holds here at most agencies, not the nation now, which means you breach the front door, breach windows, flashbangs, and call the person out to you, the suspect's out. Years ago, we'd go 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, breach the front door, and basically go through like a Banshees, going through the house, trying to clear the house, find suspects. And we found there was a lot of shootings involving stuff like that because people said they didn't know it was law enforcement breaching the front door at 3 o'clock in the morning. And,
right.
We're in Florida, a lot of guns out there. So
right.
It was just a whole different world back then.
Smarter way to do it.
Yes.
There was one you had told me about from '96, a barricaded subject in a mobile home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. The Waco on the Withlacoochee. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you too old enough to know about Waco?
Well, I know what it is.
Okay.
I do not.
Okay. So that happened a few years before his incident happened in '93. That was a standoff with the cult, the Branch Davidians, and law enforcement, and they went to serve a warrant, and I think 4 ATF guys and a few Branch Davidians were killed, and that started a standoff that lasted like 51 days, and ended with the cult people setting their compound on fire, and like 76 people died, including a bunch of children in the fire. So
holy cow!
Horrible.
Big standoff, big conflagration.
I think there was a series. Was it Hulu?
It's on Netflix, I think.
Netflix.
Yeah. Netflix
There was a series
on
on it.
Yep.
Come on, Ashley.
Sorry.
Yeah. All right.
She's busy playing tennis.
Absolutely. With strangers.
I'm guessing you did not coin it that.
Oh, no. The call came out, again, standard call. Back then we had these things called beepers. Nobody had a cell phone. We actually got beeped and a number would come up, SWAT call out. So we had to call dispatch and respond. And so we all get to the scene, and I remember so many things happened on this call. So many things stand out in my mind. one of our guys, he was a detective, an undercover detective. He had his pickup truck, and he decided it was a good idea to get changed in the back of the pickup truck and put his SWAT gear on in front of a lady's house. And he was, in his underwear in the back of the truck. And I remember we got more trouble for that portion of the call out than anything else with Sheriff Dean. Sheriff Dean was my buddy Pasta. If you're listening to this, Pasta, I love you, pal, but bad day for us, buddy. So
that's awesome.
we go to the call out, and it's a mobile home, and it's on the Withlacoochee River. And it's a mobile home, elevated. And this was a weird one because the subject was suicidal. His wife had fled the house and called 911. Well, normally, standard protocol is you try to make contact by phone, make negotiations, speak to people. And this gentleman was deaf. He could not hear.
Oh, my gosh.
What do you do in that situation?
Well, they had one of the I can't remember what it's called now. It's got a telephone where the words would come across the telephone, little computer screen, and he would not respond to that. So after probably about 3 or 4 hours into it, they decided it'd be a good idea to bring in one of those large sign trucks. They backed it up.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And they started typing on the sign trucks trying to get this guy to respond. Answer your phone, talk to us, please. And it went on probably about, at this point, 8 or 9 hours. And I myself and probably about 6 of the guys were with me, and I had the shield, and we were hidden behind a truck on property, probably about, 25, 30 feet from the front door, and it's pitch black. Again, in Citrus County, so there's no lights, there's no street lights or anything. And I see the front door open to the mobile home. I'm like, oh, he's coming out. He's going to give up. He's had enough of this stuff. And of course, you're happy. You're like, I just want to get a power bar or something at this point. So the door opens, and you can see he's got a pistol in his hand. I'm like, oh, he's not giving up. So he's walking around. It's almost as if he's looking for us. And I remember thinking, I'm going to have to shoot this guy. This is going to be horrible. I don't want to shoot him, but I don't have to. And he never saw us hidden behind the truck, and he kept walking around. He went out to the back shed, and our perimeter people are like, okay, he's in the shed now. Well, he got a can of gasoline, a 5-gallon can of gasoline, and walked back into the house again. So we're all just kind of like waiting, standing by, like, okay, he's back in the house again. And this is standard for SWAT calls. It's like we're giving intel to the command post. Okay, we're back online, we're offline. Okay, here's what he's doing. And all of a sudden, the whole place went up in flames. Then he picks up the phone, and he dials the number, and he's to 911, and he says, you know what's getting kind of cold in here? I think we're going to have a little Waco on the Withlacoochee tonight. And he set the house on fire. So the command is like, hey, get in there and save that guy. So as we try to breach the front door, he starts firing rounds off at us, and we quickly backed out of that area. Unfortunately, he did pass away. But that was another one of those days you're just like, man, what am I doing? You're reflecting afterwards like, man, wow.
You just set his house on fire.
Yes.
And the standard was to run into the burning building?
Yes.
Even like without a hostage or anything in there?
It's what we do.
Would you do that today? Is that what they would do today?
I like to think so, yes.
Yeah.
I honestly, yeah. I mean, it's our job. It's what we do. It's what we do. Yeah. So, yeah, that was just one of many. And we were, like I say, a very active team up there. And it was best experience ever, being a cop up there.
That's interesting because on one hand, you have 4 deputies at any given time, but you obviously you have to still have the resources to go do that sort of thing.
Yeah, and again, Sheriff Dean was good to us resource-wise as far as like equipment and stuff like that. But what I found in a smaller organization is we are very tight-knit. Even on the SWAT team, there was only 10 of us. And I mean, we have like 40 here, I want to say. And again, we have a great SWAT team here too also. But I just felt in Citrus, we were so tight-knit because we all hung out together. We all went to dinner together. It was very tight-knit. It was unique, a very big camaraderie, yes.
How long were you with Citrus?
14 years.
14. Okay.
And then SWAT for a lot of that.
Yes, 10 of those years.
10 years,
SWAT, yeah.
I pay attention. I asked him the question.
Helping you.
There will be a quiz at the end.
Okay, there's no fighting here today, okay?
Yeah. Wow. So a lot of the calls were barricaded type or search warrant related?
Yes. Yeah, it was very, I mean, obviously drugs are everywhere, and including Citrus was that way up there also. So we hit a lot of crack houses, drug houses, and it was very active.
Wow.
Is that like a really like swampy kind of area? I don't really know.
No, not really. Not swampy. It's now Homicide, when the floods start coming through, it gets real swampy when the tides come in and Crystal River.
Yeah.
But
you were there for one of the No Name storm.
Oh,
right?
yes, 1993,
Yeah.
the No Name storm. Bad day for me.
Yeah. What
Why
happened?
do I got to talk about like bad stuff? I wonder.
Well, it's entertaining.
That's what sticks in your mind. You'll remember the good stuff.
Yes, absolutely. No, again, young deputy. At this point, I'm like 21. I want to say.
I was 3. I can do this all day.
Okay.
Mike, how old are you?
51. I'll be 52.
Okay, I'm 48.
Right.
We have to like squash these 2 little ones.
Yes, we're going to destroy them. Let's go out back. Come on. Let's go out back right now.
I don't fight fair.
I didn't mean physically. Wow, you go there?
A lot of anger here. I've been a cop now for 33 years. There's a lot of built up energy.
Yeah.
But the no-name storm. So we had no idea, no-name storm. We had no idea it was coming through. And I was on day shift. And we started back then. We worked 8-hour shifts.
What do you mean you had no idea what was coming through?
We had no idea. All we knew was a rainstorm was coming through.
Okay.
But it was like that unexpected.
Oh, right. Okay.
I think it was like one of those like disorganized things that just came and sat there,
Yes.
right, for 3 days.
Yep.
And, yeah.
That's correct.
No name.
At high tide.
What, like,
Yeah,
you had to run up to the weather station to ask the lookout what the weather was going to be today?
That was the fire tower, actually. You did that.
Sorry. Anyway, keep going.
But so a couple of us, the three of us, go to the west side, and we get dispatched to go out to Fort Island Beach to maybe evacuate some people from a mobile home park out there, a travel trailer park. And I remember we're out directing traffic, getting all the motorhomes out and stuff, and they're leaving. And I'm looking down at my feet, and I'm like, water. It's in my feet now. That's kind of odd. Whatever, I'll be fine. So like 10 minutes later, it's in my shins. I'm like, okay, this is getting bad. So I'm looking at the other guys. They're looking at me like, what do you think? And I had just gotten a new cruiser, a nice new cruiser. Sheriff Dean gave me like a 1991 cruiser at that point, which was a big deal. A 2-year-old cruiser is like, whoa, I'm living life right.
Were those
Right.
Crown Vics then?
Yes,
Yeah.
Crown Vics.
I love those.
Oh, they were great cars. I do miss those. But so we all decided, hey, this water's coming in too deep. We got to save these cars too. So we start driving out, and as we're driving out, all of a sudden I feel my car floating on the water. I'm like, oh no. Oh, this is bad. And I'm just drifting down Highway 44 West, just like I'm on a boat. I'm like, oh, this is, weird things go through your head. Kind of like Sheriff Dean's going to be so mad at me when he sees this car because saltwater. And finally my car comes to the ground. It hits the ground, and water's up over my hood now. So I go out through my window. I climb on top of my light bar, and I'm sitting on my light bar reflecting on my life choices at that point, knowing I should have been a firefighter. Right. I knew I should have been a firefighter. So there's a motorhome that's broken down right in front of me, probably about 50 feet in front of me. And I'm looking at the motorhome. I'm thinking, hope they're okay in there, And I'm not making this up. The biggest snake I've ever seen in my life at the time is swimming across Highway 44 in front of my cruiser. And I got my gun out, and I'm like negotiating with the snake. I'm talking to the snake, please just go. Just go away. I'm not in the mood for you, pal. And it was a water snake. It was just so big. And I remember thinking, okay, if the people in a motorhome in front of me, I can't shoot this snake. What am I going to do? And that thing sat there literally about 30 seconds. I joke around. He was smiling at me. You know how a snake looks. I'm like, he's smiling at me right now. He's laughing at me right now, sitting on top of my light bar. And I look behind me, and the 2 other deputies are behind me on their light bars also. So all 3 of us are just stuck. And so the snake moved on, thank goodness. And we sat there for about 45 minutes till one of our mechanics who had an airboat, one of our mechanics had a personal airboat. He came driving out there in his boat, and he's like, get in. So all 3 of us, in shame, got off our cruisers and climbed into the airboat. And I remember he took us out to Highway 19, and guess who's sitting there?
Uh-oh.
Sheriff Dean.
no.
Oh, no.
Big 2500 Chevrolet pickup truck, king cab truck. And he had his cowboy hat on.
I have
and all.
like the perfect visual of this.
And I look like a drowned rat. And he's like, first thing he said to me, he goes, you wrecked your car, didn't you? I said, yes, sir. Car's gone. He's like, and I'm shivering. It was super cold out. He's like, get in my truck. I said, no, Sheriff, I'm good. I'm good. He goes, get your ass in my truck. I'm like, okay. So now I'm scared to death sitting in the sheriff's truck. The entire day he made me ride around with him as a passenger. And I was scared just to be in a room with this guy.
What about the other
Yeah,
guys?
exactly.
I don't care. At that point, it was every man for himself. We were
So
all
wait,
safe.
But
left
why is he only mad at you?
Yeah.
You
I
have the newest
was
car?
standing in front of him, and I did have the brand new car, the 2-year-old car.
The new
so,
one, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know. I'm sure the mechanic, the fleet guy was pretty mad too, probably.
Those cars sat out there because the storm, like you said, lasted for so long. They sat in the water for like 4 days until they could finally, the water receded, and they went out and got them, and they were all totaled, obviously. But there was a punishment.
Uh-oh.
The car that I got was like a 19, I'm not exaggerating, like 86 LTD.
Oof.
And this car was so bad. This car, your feet burned so bad driving down the road because the floorboard was all rotten out. And I drove that car. I was working Crystal River by the barge canal all night long. I remember just thinking to myself, man, if I just had that nice car still, how happy I'd be. And so it took me many years to get a car after that.
So you were punished for saving lives during a natural disaster.
I don't think they looked at it that way.
No.
He probably could have saved the lives and the car. Probably.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
At least
Well,
that's what the
hindsight.
sheriff thought. You know.
you were young.
Yes. Oh, yes.
So, what else did you do in Citrus? What other assignments did you have? Which, if you had other assignments, you weren't in too much trouble.
No. Hard work.
Yeah.
Work. I truly believe in that, and Sheriff Dean does also, and so did Sheriff Dawsey, the next sheriff I worked for. And so I quickly rose to the ranks. I was fortunate. I went to a street crimes unit. I did that for a short time, and then I went to burglary. I was a burglary detective. Did that for a while, and then I went to narcotics. And I have to tell you, I was the worst narcotics detective in the history of the sheriff's office.
Why was that?
I've been a deputy since I was 19, so I carry myself as a deputy. You know, you
Stand
walk,
there with the right stance and your
high
hands up.
hands,
Yeah.
right? Hey, how you doing? Would you like to sell me some crack cocaine, sir? You know, I had a beard and long
hello,
hair.
kids.
They're like, dude, I wouldn't sell dope to you for anything.
Oh my gosh.
So that was a quick stop for me in narcotics.
So
Great
not
people.
good at buying drugs.
No. So
Wait, but were you all scruffy then? Did you
I
have
was.
a beard?
I had a beard, long hair, beard, all that stuff.
Can we get a picture of that someday?
I promise you, I got some photos at
Okay.
the house. Yes, I will send them to you.
I'd like to
yes.
see that.
Yeah, that was
Send it to a standard mail.
I'll write you a check on that too, Ricky.
Send me a fax. That's awesome.
So I left narcotics, and I was actually fortunate enough to go to Homicide. I did that for 3 years, and that was a lot of fun. At the time, I was single, so Homicide is a great job if you're single. You're out and about all the time. You're crazy hours. You're flying helicopters all over the state of Florida, and it was an amazing experience. It was an amazing experience. That was great.
Any fun homicide cases?
Oh, we had a couple. We had a
So
couple.
how many? So you got 4 patrol guys on at any given time. What was the detective situation? What did that look like?
We probably had. Let me think. At the time, no, we were a little top heavy. Come to think of it now, when you really bring that up, jeez. There was probably about 8 of us upstairs. Total 8 of us detectives.
Okay.
So it was.
Wow.
It was.
Well, but I mean, not everybody was on call at once and stuff, so it's
Right.
still not. You know,
Right.
Oh,
Big
true,
county, a lot of
true.
stuff going on.
It really was. It was very, very busy. It was very busy. One of the ones that really stands out to me is we had two brothers camping at the barge canal up in Crystal River, and another guy had stolen one of their gas tanks, one of their 5-gallon gas tanks from their campsite. Mm-hmm. So they went and found him. They held him down and took a shotgun and blew both his hands off for stealing.
What?
True story. So the one brother had gotten out of prison. Oh, Ricky has a question. I can see.
I'm just trying to just give me a second. Blew both of his hands off at once.
They held him down on the ground, one hand.
Like
next
spread
hand.
eagle,
Yes.
so 2 shots.
Yes.
Okay.
So
And did they put a tourniquet on it afterwards?
They did
or
not.
they?
I don't know.
They were not very
he
sensitive
didn't
souls.
bleed out, though. He didn't die.
Like,
He
how
lived.
does
He
it
lived.
happen twice?
He lived.
Sorry. We're gonna move on.
So,
That's just
unfortunately, he was
Okay.
released from prison, and I was in Homicide at the time, and we got a call of a missing person. It turned into a homicide case. Pretty obvious the guy was a drug deal with the victim, and it was pretty obvious they had killed him, and we had informants and stuff like that. So we ended up going to trial and making a case on the guy, and his confession, which was never admitted because it was third-party information, was he put the victim in a wood mulcher. And
so
that's
people really do that. It's not just Fargo.
That's what we
Oh,
were
wait,
told.
yeah.
That's what we were told. So again, back then records were not like they are nowadays. There was no like, okay, let's scan all the documents to find out how many wood mulchers we have in Citrus County. And we actually went hand looking for wood mulchers, and we went lot to lot, and what are you looking for? And now we're talking months later, this case. So
Right.
he ended up getting sentenced. He was found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder, and he went to prison for a long time.
wow. So couldn't get him on the actual.
No. And he was actually
you-
very nice to me. He actually apologized at the end of the trial, like, hey, shook my hand, and I'm like, yeah, watch the hands, buddy. You have a bad reputation. Sorry.
So,
Well,
so the no evidence was found of the body. So he's out in somebody's landscape now.
Yes.
The victim.
I believe he is.
Okay.
I believe he is.
Wow.
Yep.
That wasn't that long ago. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I don't know. Just that would be all over the place.
Yeah.
If a homicide, both of his hands got blown off by separate shotgun shots. Like I don't know.
Well, that was
Yeah.
a separate one. So right.
yeah,
That-
those
they
are
went to-
two
they went to
different
prison.
people.
Well,
that
right.
happened, and then the guy
Right. The
went
two
to
brothers
prison.
did that to the one guy.
Right.
And that's
then
why
they
he
got
was
out.
He
just
got
got
in prison
out
and
of
killed the next
But
guy.
I know. I'm just saying. I'm like that's just
But either one would be
for
tough.
stealing
Yeah.
because he can't steal anymore with
Yes.
no hands.
Yeah.
Pretty much. That was their theory. You stole from us, and we're going to punish you for it. That was their punishment.
I mean, I don't know. That's entertaining stuff though.
That was Homicide, though.
That's a
If you-
Netflix special right there.
Oh, yeah. We always had interesting cases. We always were traveling all over,
There-
going places.
There was another one, and so in the last episode, in the cold case, they really liked the ruse that they used to get the DNA. There was one really interesting one where you also used a ruse, and I like saying ruse much more than I like saying rural, so I'm going to say ruse a lot.
Yeah, we had a home invasion, a horrible home invasion with an elderly woman who was assaulted. I mean, it was a very brutal assault, and she was there by herself for hours. They'd pepper sprayed her, duct taped her. It was awful. It was one of the worst crime scenes that I've been to. She survived it, and she was a very strong woman. She in her 70s, and so we were very passionate about catching these people who did it, and we got some leads and worked the case, and we worked the case for a couple of days. And our Sheriff Dawsey was our sheriff at the time, and Sheriff Dawsey was like, "These guys aren't getting away with this. You're going to find these guys. I don't care how many hours you have to work. So it was all hands on deck. And I remember one of my confidential informants called me and said, hey, just so you know, so-and-so, I just talked to his girlfriend and they're all leaving town. She has a bunch of rings on her fingers and she's going to skip town with him. I don't know what they did. I'm like, all right. So the girl was working at the Wendy's in Inverness, and myself and my partner, John Plevel, and my Sergeant Buffard went out there. And I remember walking into the Wendy's and I could see her behind the cash register and she had a bunch of like 6 rings on her fingers. I'm like, oh, okay. And a lot of jewelry had been stolen from the victim during the home invasion. So I asked the young lady, I said, can you come outside and talk to me real quick? She's like, oh yeah, sure. Give me 1 second. So she walks in the back and she comes outside and she's like, what's going on? I look at her hands and she has no rings on her fingers now. I'm like, gee, I'm not the smartest cop, but something's going on here. So I started talking to her about, what's going on. I said, let me ask you something. Probably about 10, 15 minutes in a conversation. I said, do you have any jewelry? Do you own any jewelry? She's like, oh no, I don't have any jewelry at all. I said, okay. I said, so you haven't had rings on in the last 24 hours? She's like, no, I haven't. So I remember looking at my sergeant and I said, hey, Boof, I said, do you have a gold dust kit? And I remember him looking at me like I was an idiot. He's like, I'm like, you have a gold dust kit in your car? He's like, no, I don't have a gold dust kit. I said, well, hang on, I think I got one. So I went to my trunk, got my first aid kit out, and I got a bunch of alcohol swabs. And I went up to her, I said, now listen, I said, what this is a chemical that if you've had gold on your fingers in the past 24 hours, it will come up on this. It'll turn a certain color. I said, so you're telling me now you have not worn any jewelry in 24 hours. And she broke down. I definitely tricked her on that one. She's like, okay, I got rings. So we went and recovered the rings from the Wendy's. And we ended up taking her boyfriend, her brother, and another female in custody for the home invasion robbery. And they got, I want to say, 25 years for that home invasion.
Oh, good.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a family affair.
I was definitely rolling the dice on that one. I was like, okay, let's see if we can play a game here and get this girl.
Well, I mean, listen, if you're dumb enough to have the rings on and then not.
Yes.
For those who don't know, not to spoil future ruses, law enforcement does not carry a gold dust kit.
Shh, don't tell anybody.
Don't tell anybody. Yeah.
We can test for platinum, silver, diamonds, rubies, emeralds, but that's, gold dust is not a standard issue for our kids.
Not at all. But those first aid kits work really good.
Multi-purpose.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, I love it. I love it. You just got to be smart about it sometimes.
Yeah.
Was that before or after Narcotics? Because I'm like, if you were able to do that, why couldn't you do?
That's a good point.
That was after Narcotics. I think I found my groove. And again, it was all the way back to the jail days. I know it sounds funny, but I feel like I've always had this comfortable groove. And growing up, I was not exactly an altar boy.
Really?
A couple issues, a couple of run-ins with the law, things like that.
Care to elaborate?
No. And, but
he's a success story.
I mean,
Yes,
exactly.
yes.
I turned my life around. But for some reason, Narcotics just never came comfortable to me. It never came like that. Just never came comfortable. But like in Homicide, Burglary, things like that, that was my niche. I love that. And which it's funny coming here because being with Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, I went to patrol training, and then canine and SWAT. So everybody who I work with here is like, oh, you're just a canine guy. You work with dogs all the time. They don't know I had a separate life before I came.
Right,
here.
right.
Yeah.
And I always joke with my wife. I'm like, I think I did my career backwards. I was a young man in homicide and burglary and all
Right,
that.
sure.
And then in my 40s, I go to canine like an idiot. So it's like, I should do this the other way, Mike. Canine when you're a young man and then go to
Right.
homicide and burglary. And
So a lot of great adventures in your pre-PCSO life.
absolutely.
Sounds like. So that's a good segue though. So let's talk about it. So you come here.
Yes.
You said you did patrol, obviously. You did training.
That's correct. Yep. Went to the training unit.
And then you do canine.
Yes. Best job in the agency.
Best job in the agency.
And honestly, I wasn't like thinking I'd ever do canine because again, I was in my 40s. I'm like, okay, that's kind of past me. But at the time, one of my hobbies is running marathons back then, and I'd run 7 marathons, and I was in very, very good shape. And I remember a couple of canine people coming up saying, hey, you should try out. And I'm like, you know what? You really think I'm too old? That question always comes up. Like, I don't know, man. I'm up there. They're like, just give it a shot. And I'm proud to say I went out there and I smoked the tryout.
Nice.
Physically, I smoked the tryout, and not to brag, but
Humble brag.
so I ended up getting a position, and I found out quickly that is the toughest position in the agency initially, going to K9, because I've been a success throughout my career. I'd always been good at, except for narcotics, but everywhere else I had been, SWAT and things like that, I've always been very successful. And then I found quickly that at 4 o'clock in the morning when it's cold out and you're wet, trying to get a dog to go to the sit is not the easiest thing in the world. And, again, getting there, you're like, how hard can this be? It's a dog. Hey, sit down, man. Come on, work with me here. And then you're like, okay, please, for the love of God, dog, please listen to me. And it was, my canine school was 4 months of just stress. I went down to 158 pounds. I got real skinny, and that was all stress weight.
Wow.
Dang.
So let's get into canine, but first, like, tell us about, canine and how it's structured and how it works here at the sheriff's office.
Sure. Right now we have 16 dogs and handlers here at the sheriff's office. We're a 24/7 operation. I have 2 squads, and I know everybody knows about our new bloodhounds, how exciting that is.
Oh, yeah.
They are the stars of the show. Nobody even cares about our shepherds anymore and the mouths anymore. Where's the puppies? So we're 24/7 operation. I have 2 corporals, and then the remainder of the units are canine handlers. We train every Tuesday night at the kennels. We have an amazing facility out off 118th Avenue and 34th Street. And every Tuesday night, we have our 7 o'clock read off, and then we go into training, 10-hour training night with all the handlers. And it's a very perishable skill. So we train with these dogs.
So, and then, so the dogs live with the handlers.
Yes.
From the very beginning.
We get them as puppies. And the way it works is if you're a brand new handler, you don't get to select your dog because brand new handlers, they look at a dog and go, oh, what a cool looking dog. And that dog could be the worst dog ever, no drive whatsoever. So we don't let them pick their dog. We select the dog for them. We pair them up after the tryout, and then we introduce them to the family. It's a long process.
What are you looking for in a dog?
High drive, prey drive, and hunt drive. What we do, the big test that we do, the most important test in canine selection, not other than handler selection, I'll get to that too in a minute, but for the dog is the drive. And what we do is we'll take like a screwdriver and we'll take the screwdriver and keep rubbing our hands on it and get that human odor, the skin cells on it, and we'll tease that dog like crazy, like, woo, throw it up in the air and all that. And then we'll take it and throw it into a high grass where the dog can see it, but he can't see the tool.
Yeah.
And we watch the dog fly out there. The dog who flies out there looking for that tool, the longer he stays out there is the dog we want. If he gets out there and he kind of walks, he's excited first, and about 15, 30 seconds into it, walks away, we're like, put him away. We don't want him. Not a chance. I want the crazy dog. You guys met Eddie, the crazy dog.
Yep.
We want that crazy dog who will not give up. I don't care if he finds a screwdriver or not. We can learn. He can learn that. What I want is the drive to go find that screwdriver.
Why a screwdriver as opposed to a toy? Because it's a less appealing thing?
Yes. Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
So you want them to look for it even though it's not a fun, chewy, squeaky thing?
We call them hard articles. We use hard articles because on the street, when we're tracking, let's say we're tracking a suspect and he or she throws a gun down as we're going and way ahead of us, I want that dog to be a head turned toward that hard object and let us know, oh, hey, there's something there too. So we always use hard articles to train them with. Yep.
So training, and I mean, tell us, talk about, you're on your 3rd dog now.
Yes, I am.
So you've been doing it for a while. How long now in canine?
15 years.
15 years.
How old are you then, Ricky?
Oh, now you're making me do math. I'm a millennial. I couldn't possibly.
Get your iPad out. Come on.
iPad kid.
Yeah. So when you're talking about training, I know because I've been around canine a lot, especially in the early days when you were torturing me and hazing me out there.
Oh, can we talk about that?
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
We want the Ricky story.
I just walked.
Well, do you want to come back?
Yeah,
to
we can
that?
come back. We can come back. I just walked right into it. Damn it. So talk about your experience and because that'll kind of help us understand what the process is like for training to be a canine deputy.
The training, again, it's midnight shift. It's a midnight shift training, and I got to throw this out there. The people who built our unit way before me, the men and women who are here before me, built an amazing unit. Our canine section, I'm so proud of it because years past, they built an amazing program. We're just trying to keep up with what they built. I truly mean that. The pillars that we work on every day, they are strong pillars. So we just try not to disappoint them. So when I got to canine, the school is at night, like I said, and it is extremely physical. It is mental stress and physical stress. Every canine handler has AFLAC. It's pretty much mandatory because you are getting bit. You need supplemental insurance. You're going to get bit. You're going to the hospital. The standard night was you get out, you do obedience, agility, bite work, search work, building search, article search. And it's not only your dog. Don't forget, you're also decoying for all the other people in school. So you're taking running hits, getting taken to the ground by these dogs all night long. It is extremely physical. And my first dog, I won't even say his name because he can go away. He didn't make it. So, but I went through school with him. I made it 14 weeks. It was 16-week school. And they washed him in week 14. And I remember thinking, no, I'll settle for him. He's okay.
Right.
He's okay. And they're like, you do not want to settle for a mediocre dog. The dog, he was a good dog, but he wasn't a great dog. And again, like I said before, we don't settle for okay dogs or good dogs. We want a great dog because how long of a career is that for 7, 8 years having a dog who's just okay? Deputies know K unit, whoever's on their way. And if it's somebody who doesn't have a good reputation because their dog is okay, how miserable is that for a career? You want to be like, no, Kay, I'm on my way. My canine unit on my way, and they're going to catch this person for us. So that dog didn't make it, which means I start off day one again in school. It was like, no, but you know what?
Back in that frozen lake.
Back in that frozen lake, alligators. Lake McGorry is where we train back
That's
then.
full of alligators.
And I was
Yeah.
I got to tell you my alligator story. Many alligator stories. I could sit here forever, alligator stories, because they're everywhere in our county. But this particular one, I remember in canine school, I was probably about halfway through with my first dog. And there's a little bridge at the St. Pete compound where you're going to Lake McGorry. And to my right, I saw this dinosaur of an alligator. It was probably about 7 o'clock in the evening, and he was sunning himself still. And this thing was, and again, I know people exaggerate all the time. He was probably about 11 foot and real wide. I'm like, oh, look at that thing. And I knew I was going to be swimming later on in that water. And so we're at the kennels, and the trainer at the time said, okay, go get your dogs. We're going to go through the bridge, go swim down the bridge. And I'm like, Frank, dude, there's a dinosaur over there. He's in the water now. Can we please not swim over there tonight? Can we just go somewhere else? Not that made any difference in Lake McGorry. But I remember there was like 5 or 6 of us in the school. And at the time I was on SWAT. I was one of the snipers. So we put a plan together. I went and got my sniper rifle out of the trunk of my cruiser. I said, here's the way it's going to work, guys. I said, you're all going to cross the water. I'm going to cover you with the sniper rifle. And then when you get through, you come up here, take my rifle, and cover me and my dog when we go through the water. And that was pretty much every night. I had pretty sad. Canine school, you got your sniper rifle out half the time because you're so scared of alligators. But yes. Lost for words, Ricky.
I know every
It's
waterway in
terrifying.
Florida has alligators, but that one in particular, like if I have tourists come and I want to guarantee to see big alligators, that's where I take them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're giant. They're everywhere.
The nice thing is when you're out tracking with the dogs, like, at night you're going through a swamp, waist deep water, and you'll hear the loudest splash, like a bang. It sounds like a bomb going off.
Yeah.
Splash, boom, and you're like, oh, there's another one. You just got to tell yourself, ignore it, keep going. And that's common at night. You're just like, splash.
I'm always just unable to take my comms hat off. So I'm just thinking about the call that we get after there are multiple shots fired from a high caliber rifle at canine training.
Just training folks. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
Just
and
training.
then we're
Yeah.
hauling a
'cause
dinosaur out of there.
Because they always call up PIO, right, and say, is something going on? Oh, no, we're just having training
Yeah,
out
we're
there.
just canine training. Yeah, I was training.
Sounded pretty loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was shooting into the
No, it
water
couldn't be
because
live fire.
somebody
It's
would
just
have
training.
it. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I wouldn't even go in the water.
You know, I
Absolutely
like
not.
to be with like sharks and alligators and snakes and things, and I would not go in that lake.
No.
Yeah, I mean, alligators don't bother me if I see them first. Like, not at all. Like, my dad used
you
to
have
be a trapper.
history
and
with
I'd go-
alligators,
Yeah,
yeah.
That's right,
I
yeah.
go with them. Like, it doesn't bother me, but the
But
When it
swimming in the
starts-
lake?
When it's dark out and you have no idea you hear it, you're like, oh, I know you're next to me somewhere, pal.
And you still have all your arms?
And
yeah,
Still here.
Yeah.
10 fingers, 10 toes.
But I mean, the point is that if potentially someone you guys are tracking goes in there, you still have to go
Yeah,
in
you're
there
going in.
with.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That goes down to
Yeah.
handler selection too. That's why I was saying earlier, handler selection is so important too. Whenever we hire a new recruit class, how often do they say, I say, who wants to go to canine? 90% raise their
yeah.
hands. They're
Yeah.
like, oh, I want to do canine.
everybody
Because-
loves canines.
Yeah.
Sure, but they have
Yeah.
this image of, oh, I get a dog, a shepherd.
Pet a
he's so
dog all
cool.
day.
And then they come to tryouts and they're like, what are you talking about? Go through that lake. We make them swim through lakes like golf course lakes and things like that because we got to see that they're willing to go into water where there's some water moccasins, there's alligators, a lot of spiders. Bad guys, like you were saying, Ashley,
Yeah.
they go places where they don't think we're going to follow them,
Right.
and most deputies won't follow them smartly. Then you have dumb canine handlers like ourselves who are like, yeah, let's get this guy.
You guys run into anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So when I
crazy.
went with you guys out for tryouts, when you went through the march, that was like so eye opening for me that,
Yeah.
you guys go through things that you would never normally go through because that's where they're hiding.
That's
they
where the
think
bad
you're
guys
never
go.
going to go there. I mean, my jeans were ripped up, everything.
Sorry.
Like,
See,
no,
now, if
those
I
are my
would've-
canine jeans now. So
If I would have been out there and it was 10 years ago, he would have made me go too.
Which segues right into
do you
the story, Ricky.
The story
So,
we've been waiting for.
We,
this
we,
story.
we did. Yeah, Ricky said all those. I feel kind of bad. He said all those kind things about me. at the
Yeah, but I've
beginning
been
of this.
giving you a hard time, so it's all right.
All right, yeah. How old are you again? Anyway, so Ricky came out, and Ricky, how friendly he is and talkative, and introduced himself to everybody. And after about 5 minutes, we're like, "So, do me a favor." He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Put the suit on." And, the big, we call them the marshmallow suits or the bite suits.
That's never been washed.
No, never. We're proud of that. We don't wash those things ever. They smell really good. We have a couple. Never. It doesn't
So it's like total body coverage so the dog can bite you anywhere.
Yes.
Not
Okay.
total body coverage.
Well,
Absolutely
your
not.
hands stick out. Your hands stick
Okay.
out, and your face, obviously.
Yeah.
But we
Okay.
we were safe. We gave Ricky a helmet, didn't we?
Like the least important things,
Yeah,
hands and face.
I did have a hockey mask on. Or
so
something
you're
like that.
safe.
That was fine.
I was pretty fairly comfortable. You're going to be okay. And
My hands though.
Did you
Your
have
hands.
afro?
I didn't steal anything.
So we tell Ricky, so he gets all geared up.
Hold
he's
on.
like,
The guy got his hand shot off for stealing.
Oh.
Unprotected hands.
I love it.
All right.
And we're back.
There we go. All right.
Live with Mike Kilian. Continue.
So I lost my train of thought.
See?
Ricky's in the smelly bite suit.
Oh,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
There
so we
it
tell
is.
Ricky, we're like, hey, dude, just take off running. And he's like, what? We're like, just run.
Trust
Trust
me.
us. Yeah, you're going to be fine. Hopefully, it usually works out most of the time. And he took off running. We have a big canine field, our search boxes, and he's running full speed. And we sent one of our German shepherds, I think, on him and took Ricky down. And I mean, drug him like a rag doll across the field. And the reason I share this story, first of all, he was brave enough or stupid enough to get in the suit. I thought he was going to say, not a chance, buddy. I'm not getting in that suit. I don't have to. And he kept coming back out after that. So he's technically canine. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, I'm honorary. Well, the thing is the hands thing was a problem because I knew enough to know that the dogs go for limbs and whatnot, and I just have this vision of the dog like a cartoon chewing up my arm to my hand. That is, so it's like, oh, just tuck your hands in and run as fast as you can. So tonight, when you're bored, if you go for a run later, just tuck your hands in to your armpits like a T-Rex and try to see how fast you can run, and then imagine being in a marshmallow suit. That's what it was. All right, so we'll move on from that.
But did you die?
I didn't,
Okay.
and I
I
still
think he's
have.
a little traumatized.
then.
Yeah,
he is a
it's-
little traumatized by the whole thing.
It's all right.
That twitch he has, that wasn't normal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Twitch has had many causes over the years. All right, so let's go back to you. So you wash out your first dog, and
Yes.
then let's talk about your actual first dog that made it.
Best dog in the world right there, Mr. Axel Foley. Axel
That sounds familiar.
Oh, yes. Mr. Axel was an amazing, amazing dog. And I know every canine handler who's listening to this right now is like, yeah, right, my dog's the best. We all say that. We all think we have the best dog. But I have to say Axel, except for his behavioral issues sometimes, he liked to bite. Axel did enjoy biting, no doubt about it. And
Everything and everyone?
there were several deputies who still will not talk to me to this day. That those stories are way too long, I'm thinking, to tell you about the gas pumps and
I like the gas pump one, though.
Okay, you want to hear that one?
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Absolutely.
I was pumping gas on midnight shift, and at the time, one of our undercover detectives in TSU was pulling up. I'm pumping gas, and I had Axel out to take a break. He's running around the gas pump, so the detective gets out. I won't use his name. He gets out to get gas, and we're social. Hey, how are you, sir? Hey, we're talking, and all of a sudden, for no reason, Axel goes up and grabs him by the pants and starts dragging him to the ground, and he ripped his pants off.
All the pants off.
Oh, no.
That guy was so mad at me. He didn't talk to me. And then, sadly, that happens. And then, probably about a year later, we're up in North County working a call with those same detectives. And I got Axel out of the car, and he's like, he's not going to bite me. I'm like, nah, he bit him.
No.
I'm like, no. I'm like, pal,
He's like,
I just
those are
don't-
the pants
I
I
don't
love.
think he
Yeah.
likes you. I really don't think he likes you very much.
You remembered him.
But Axel was a tracking, just an amazing dog tracking. His disposition was not very good for everybody else, but he was great. He was fantastic. He was a drug dog and a patrol dog, and we had a lot of catches with him.
Now, Axel was trained a different way than how we train now.
Much differently, yes.
So talk about that a little bit.
My first school with Axel was under compulsion, which means when you train a dog, okay, sit. You tell a dog to sit under compulsion. If he doesn't sit, you're going to pop the lead on his choke chain and push his butt down to the ground, forcing the dog to go to a sit. And eventually they will conform. Even your highest drive dogs will conform to that because of the punishment. And they're good dogs. They work out well that way. But the problem is they become extremely aggressive under compulsion. So probably about 10 or 12 years ago, we stole away. We found that there was a trainer down in Miami who came up and did some teaching for us and some classes for us. And he was doing this thing called the reward system, which segued into different ideas for us. And the reward system basically is reward the dog for good behavior when he does what you want him to do, whether it's food or a tug toy. Put the dog in a sit. Once they go to the sit, you have like 1.5 seconds to say, give the dog that reward and give the reward. And they learn so much quicker that way. It's called marker training also. It kind of segues into marker training, mark the behavior. You tell the dog, like my dog now, Eddie, I say the word free, high pitch free. I'm like, free. And as soon as he hears free, he knows it's time to play. So if I tell him sit, as soon as he sits, I'm like, free, and give him the tug toy. And we have found the best way I explain it during canine demos is who's ever worked for a really bad boss? You go to work every day, you're miserable. You're like, oh gosh, I got to go to work today for this person, blah, blah, blah. And that's compulsion training. You're there because you have to be there. You're not happy about it, but you're going to do it because you got to pay your bills. Versus going to work for someone you really enjoy working for. You have a great time. Laura's pointing at Ricky right now. Isn't that nice?
I wasn't going to say anything. Right?
But that boss that you work for, that you actually feel you have a buy-in, that person makes you feel appreciated and rewards for lack of a better term, rewards your work, I guess.
Yeah, Laura and I do the tug toy every day.
We do.
Laura,
do.
sit.
Look at me. I'm sitting.
But those dogs
Say
are,
free. I'll start running around the room.
but those dogs, the dogs that we have now, I mean, they bite just as hard when they're forced to bite someone, but they're such well-behaved dogs now, and they're focused. I call them our subcontractors. The dogs are our subcontractors. They work for us. We're in charge, but they're happy dogs. They're happy police dogs.
So was it just a lack of knowing any better when it comes to the difference in training? I mean, or are there agencies that still use compulsion?
Oh, there are some agencies around here that still use compulsion, and I think we just evolve as law enforcement. We learn better ways of doing things, kind of like everything else in our jobs. Think about the way we used to train back in the 90s, Ricky. Years ago, the way we trained certain things, we've gotten away from all those tactics. We're like, oh, that's ridiculous. Why would you do that? Revolvers. Why would you carry a revolver when you carry an automatic with all these extra rounds in it? So it's the same thing with canine training. And you don't ever want to get stagnant with any of your training, any of your ideas. And that's one thing I've always prided myself on is new ideas and always trying to advance and do things differently. So I'm always open to new ideas. And I've got some great trainers in the canine section. We have people who truly have a passion for training dogs. And whenever they come up with new ideas, I'm like, hey, let's try it. Go with it, guys. You're the experts. Do it. And they come to me with stuff, with ideas. And I'm like, wow, what a great idea. And we just keep growing, getting better and better.
Now, and I think also, so the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, we run a canine school for the county. So we train pretty much all the canine teams in the county with the exception of St. Pete. Is that right?
That's correct. St. Pete. Yep.
Okay. And
we have Clearwater, Largo, Pinellas Park, Tarpon Springs, and us.
Cool. That's good. I mean, they come to us. I mean, it's also an economies of scale thing, but
yes, it's important because on hot calls, we're all together anyway, all the agencies. We all work together. Something major goes on, you're going to have canines from all over the place going. And it's good that we train together. We go to the same schools together. And then we actually train a lot on Tuesdays and Wednesday nights together. So we know our capabilities. And dogs have personality just like human beings. So you know what dog you want to use for certain calls. Like a dementia patient, prior to our bloodhounds, a dementia patient walks away and you don't want to use one of those dogs who likes to bite. It's like, no, put your dog away, pal. Get this dog out. That's our happy dog. Get that dog out to find this person. So that's why it's really good to train together.
But because we use, the reward system over compulsion, though, the dogs are generally...
Oh, absolutely.
All of our dogs are happy dogs now, right?
They are happy, but you get certain dogs, you're just like, he's a little too happy sometimes when it comes to the apprehensions.
All right, so you have Axel, then what?
Axel retires and becomes a stay-home dog, which he was not happy about even a little bit. He ate my wife's Louis Vuitton purse. And it was, I guess, and again, I don't know much about purses, but it looks like a big duffel bag. It did look like a big duffel bag. And I didn't realize how much a Louis Vuitton purses were until that night when she yelled at me a lot. He was very upset that I left and took my new dog, Reggie, with me. And she called me. She came home from work. She's also in law enforcement, works here at the sheriff's office. She came home and she found Axel had eaten the entire bag. There was just little tiny shreds left of it. He had digested the entire bag.
Oh my.
Yes.
Like he was all right? He didn't have to go to the vet?
No, he was fine.
Holy moly.
But the bag was not.
The bag was not good.
Clearly.
I actually got on their website. That's how I found how much those bags are, which I was very upset with her then when I found how much those bags are. And I guess they only do like certain models, certain years. They don't. I'm thinking like Walmart, go and get yourself a bag. And
were you going to replace it, not Tyler?
I was going to be nice, yes. Huh? And then they didn't have that color bag and all that, so it turned into big issues. So Mother's Day was not too far behind her. So I was like,
yikes.
I cried at Louis Vuitton buying her a new bag. I worked a lot of overtime that year.
All right, so
Reggie. So Reggie, he is our, we called him the Blondie. He was our Slovakian dog when he worked here. He has a personality of his own. He had a lot of names: Blondie, Dancing Bear, all kinds of things. Came to school.
Dancing Bear.
He looked just like Dancing Bear, and he is a happy dog. He is a happy dog, I should say. He was also a patrol bomb dog, and just a great dog. Unfortunately, at that point, or fortunately, I had gotten promoted to sergeant in the canine unit at that point. So poor Reggie's working life was cut short by sitting in the office with me doing spreadsheets.
Right.
He can actually do a spreadsheet, time roll. He can do payroll. He was
I might
very
need to come
talented.
to him for some help. I'm pretty bad.
really.
Evaluations.
Excel,
He always made suggestions for evaluations. He said next to me at the desk and say, "Why don't you put that in there?"
Nice.
So he is a great dog, and he a fantastic bomb dog. But unfortunately for him, he had a lot of admin time, which now he is retired and he runs the house. He sits on the couch and enjoys himself every day of retirement.
Do You have other dogs at home too?
Yes.
Leo
Yes.
dogs?
Yes, we have 4 dogs now. We did have 5. One passed away, so we have 4. Reggie, of course, my retired dog. I have Eddie now, my current police dog. And then we have another dog named Catesy, and that's a long story behind that name, Cates. And then we have Shadow. Shadow runs the roost. He's a tiny little dog, and he is
Of course,
like...
it's always
Yeah.
little ones.
Oh,
The
yes.
Napoleon syndrome.
big time.
Every time.
My police dog, Outback, Eddie, who stays with us, Outback outside and again in a kennel, when a Shadow goes outside, he chases Eddie, and Eddie looks like the biggest baby running from him, yelping, running away from him. I'm like, you're a police dog, dude. Trying to act like it once in a while. So yeah, we have quite the crew. We're the Clampids in the neighborhood. There's no doubt about it. We are the Clampids.
But Reggie got some catches.
Oh no, he has some great catches.
Yeah.
He did. It's just unfortunately what I learned getting promoted is a lot of admin duties. There's a lot of administrative time here as a K9 sergeant because of the liability, all the training records, all the things that go behind the scenes, the purchasing. The sergeant handles their budget. I do all the budgeting and stuff like that. So there's a lot of downtime paperwork wise, and not only that, K9 handlers are extremely competitive, and they all have their areas. So if there's 6 dog teams working the street, and here comes the sergeant, and a call comes out, and that's their area, there's an etiquette. You don't want to be that person like, hey, I'm going to pull rank here. I'm going to get my dog out. That's not the thing to do. You want to make your people very successful, so you don't want to steal their calls. So it makes it tough because you are getting teary eyed. You're like, oh, I could get out right now. I could catch this guy.
Could do
right
it.
now.
Be a cop again.
Yes. Yep.
But you had said Reggie only had 1 bite in his career?
One bite. Yes.
Wow.
1 bite, and that guy, he was in a swamp, and that guy was not giving up. And he kept running and running and running, and finally ended up sending Reggie on him.
Tell Reggie.
Yes, said Reggie on him, and he got an inner thigh bite on this guy, and that guy. I almost felt bad for that guy that night. Like, listen, you paid your price to society, pal. I know that one hurt.
So bites. That's a good. Question. So 1 bite, though. I mean, that obviously doesn't sound like a lot, but we don't really bite a whole lot of people.
Less than 10%.
And I think that's a big misconception about
Absolutely,
law enforcement canines. And, certainly that has not always been the case, but, we try to always be the exception, not the rule. But, the dogs are trained to just find people. They're not out there,
They are locating tools, what they're supposed to be, a locating tool. And if the person is a felon and they're not giving up and it meets the requirements, we will send a dog. But like I say, rarely, like you said, Ricky, does that happen. And we keep bite ratios. We're very accountable. That's why it's so important selecting the right personnel for this job too. You don't want anybody with ego. You don't want somebody who's just vindictive or sadistic or anything like that. You want to have a good, mild-mannered person who knows that dog is there if needed. And I'm very proud of the handlers we have right now. We stay right at about 10%. So 1 out of 10, if we have to bite someone, it's because we had to bite that person. We gave them every opportunity to give up, and they didn't. So shame on them.
Yeah, most people. I'd say I certainly would. Got the dog. Okay, I'm coming out, and that's what happens most of the time.
Especially our repeat offenders. If someone is bitten by a dog, normally it is painful. There's no doubt. Trust me, I have stitches everywhere. It's painful. So if we have a repeat offender, like I've had people under cars in St. Pete, and the guy's like, "I'm right here. I'm under the car." I'm like, "I know." The dog's telling me, and the person came out, and he's like, "I'm not doing that again. Last time you guys got me, the dog bit me, and I'm never going through that again." So. Most people are smart enough to say, I give up. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, when you guys are out there, you work a lot with flight. We had a great episode of Partners in Crime that highlighted that. Talk a little bit about that relationship and how important it is and how it kind of works. Because what I'm really getting at, too, is we always like to make sure we share some tips and pointers for folks if they happen to see a dog out or hear the helicopter out. Yeah. So talk about how you work together.
First of all, our relationship with the flight unit has never been better. Great bunch of people out there, hardworking. We all have the same mission. They all want to do what we want to do is catch the bad guy. Now, sometimes does that get a little competitive? Oh, yes. I listen to their flight recorder, and they're so happy when they catch the bad guy before the K9 does.
Oh, yeah.
They're very excited about
I've been
that.
up with them. I heard them do that very thing. Yep.
So it's competitive, but it's a healthy competitiveness. We train with them once in a while. We'll actually meet on a Tuesday night, and they'll get the flight section up, and we'll lay out decoys and practice tracking while the flight unit calls it out. Their technology helps us so much, the infrared camera they have. And we also wear these things called strobes on our vest that we turn on. And they put down their night vision goggles. And once our strobes are on, the pilot can see exactly where we're at, even better than a flare unit. They can see where we're at. And the relationship is great. So on a standard night, If a suspect flees or we're looking for someone, the dog is out, the flight unit is going to be over the top. They're going to be flying over, and they're basically watching us. They're taking care of us, making sure we're safe. What we run into an awful lot, and this is our PSA right now, Ricky, honestly, whenever we're out tracking, it happens pretty much every track. Somebody will say, they'll come out of their house because they will hear the helicopter, and they're like, are you looking for somebody? And my sarcastic side wants to say, no. Just taking a dog for a walk at 3 o'clock in the morning with the helicopter. Just, of course, I'd never say that, but I'm like, yeah, go back in your house. Go back in your house. Why? What's going on? What are you looking for? A lot of that, and that hurts us in the canine world because now the dog is distracted. The dog is like, whoa, what's that over there? And so if you hear the helicopter up, just understand. I'll put it to you this way: if it sounds like the helicopter is about to land on your roof, that means there's a canine somewhere around your house looking for a suspect. And I know that natural instinct is to find out what's going on.
Sure.
You want to find out. If nothing else, call the sheriff's office and ask the 582-6200 number and say, what's going on? Am I safe? Is there something I need to look for? But coming outside doesn't help us at all. We've had some close calls of we call them spontaneous bites of citizens because they come outside walking around. And I honestly, I've had more guns pointed at me by civilians than I have bad guys. A lot of people they hear a noise outside, they grab their pistol, they come running out looking to see what's going on in their backyard. And I understand, but there's a law enforcement officer legally in your backyard jumping fences trying to catch a bad guy. And I can't tell you how many times I've been like, whoa, sheriff's office. I got the flashlight pointed at myself like, please don't shoot me. Please don't shoot me.
Yeah.
So yeah, please stay inside.
So I guess while we're talking about tracks and whatnot, for our listeners, how does a track work? You know, and we can talk about the bloodhounds in a little bit, but you know, bloodhounds and the shepherds and mals are all a little bit different with how their noses work.
That's
So
correct, yep.
when they're tracking, you know, a lot of people think, oh well, you know, it's like in the movies, which it is the case with the bloodhounds, but with a shepherd or a mal, it's not like, hey, smell this shirt and then go get them.
Not at all. No, they're going off the freshest odor. Like let's say it's a stolen car vehicle bailout. We'll take the dog to the driver's door, passenger's door, whichever the person fled from, and we'll get the dog out. The dog finds that odor, and they're tracking that odor, the freshest odor, to where the suspect is in a hide. You know, in Pinellas County, we're obviously very urban, not rural. We have a lot of issues with like foot traffic, people walking, people out jogging, stuff like that. It makes it very difficult to work through all that with these dogs. They're actually, you know, I wouldn't even say they're tracking dogs; they're trailing dogs, going off that odor. And what they're doing is they're looking for ground surface, you know, like through grass and stuff like that. The foliage that's actually pushed down. That gives them odor. Not to mention all the skin follicles falling off your skin as you're running. And we have a thing called fear scent. And if your adrenaline's flowing, you're running from the police, you're scared, you're nervous, your adrenaline's flowing, you're dumping more odor out of your body. And the dogs realize that. It's amazing watching them on a training track where they know it's training versus a hot call where the person's running, the person's scared. The dogs, you can see their drive is so much higher when it's an adrenaline dump like that with a bad guy.
I had always heard dogs can smell fear, but I never knew it was actually true.
I truly believe
Yeah,
it can.
really?
Literally, yeah.
We see it,
know
and
that.
some of it's us. You know, we're hyped up too.
Yeah.
You know, we're hyped up grabbing a dog, putting a harness on the dog. Let's
Yeah.
go. The sirens are going on, and
Yeah.
they get that. But every dog that I've worked, I could see a huge difference from a training track where they're like, okay, we got this, boom, 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 versus a hot call track where they're like just on it, crazy on it. Different personalities. Now the bloodhounds, like you were saying,
Right.
they are scent discriminative big time. You could take a pillowcase, an article of clothing, and give that dog that article of clothing or that pillowcase, and once they get that odor in their nose, they can discriminate that odor, and they will find that track wherever it's at in that area, and they will hit it up to 24 hours. They can hit that track. It is a game changer for Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. These bloodhounds are going to be so good for us, no doubt about it. They don't bite. They're friendly little guys. Of course, they're still puppies now, but they're not bite dogs. They just, the drive they have to find that odor is amazing. And I just spoke with the trainer up in Pasco where they're going to school yesterday, and he said he has never seen better canines than the school he has going on right now. So we're really excited to get them to
All the
school.
bloodhounds,
the bloodhounds, all the bloodhounds, yes, and they're all brothers from the
Yeah.
same litter. So it's
They
kind
are.
of cool. 5 brothers going to school together.
We got lucky.
We got really lucky. Yes.
Wow, that's cool.
It's a good group.
That is. That's the best tool we have is
Oh, yeah.
dogs.
Yeah.
I think so.
For the PR side and for the getting down to business side.
And they work in all conditions.
Yeah.
Fog, rain, doesn't matter. They don't complain ever.
Was
When
that a dig at flight?
Yes, of course. I love the flight unit, but I got to throw it out there when I can. Hey, when they come on here, I promise you, and you have them as guests, they're going to throw a dig at canines.
Yeah,
so I
it's
had to
all
get it in
right.
first.
It's all good. Sorry, Ashley, go ahead.
No. So when the dogs are tracking, they're anticipation. Like they're excited because they think that they're like playing some type of game, more or
Absolutely.
less.
Yep. Absolutely.
Like it's not an aggression. It's not a, I can't wait to,
I want to get to the end. I want to find it. I want to find the reward at the end of this track.
It's very much like a game.
Yes,
And I
very
think
much.
sometimes people, like public perception, they're not thinking that that's what's happening.
Right. They're very excited. I mean, and I've seen Mike and our guys do a million canine demonstrations, but Mike is always, the bad guy is, well, they train, for example, when you're training with them with apprehension, which statistically they don't get to do very often. When they're training for apprehension, they're screaming and whatever and having a great time. And the whole time the dog is like,
those tails are wagging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are thinking this is the best day ever. We're going to Disney World again. This is the best day ever. So
Yeah.
yeah.
From the
like you're
outside,
saying,
it looks scary, but they've been taught that this is
right.
This is a reward.
If they were vicious dogs like we've seen in the past, they would bite one spot and then move to another spot to another spot. Our dogs are bite and hold dogs. When they're forced to bite someone, they will grab one spot and they will hold that spot because they're thinking that's my tug toy. And we're playing. They're not all over the place, typewriting all over the place. That's where you get real problems.
Yeah. So Eddie, your last dog,
Old Eddie.
you
yes.
claim is your last dog.
Current dog, let's say.
He is my last dog. He is my current dog and my last dog.
Okay.
My knees are not going to put up with another dog, I don't think. Unfortunately.
Yeah. A physical job,
I am proud to say Eddie is the best of all three dogs. He has kind of got a little bit of personality of Axel with the drive, and he has a disposition of Reggie. So he is like the best of both worlds, and he is a lot of fun. You guys got to meet him before we started, and you saw how crazy he is. And how he
He's a
runs around.
high energy
Yes.
boy.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. He is nonstop.
And
sweet.
smart, really smart.
I know. I'm not going to lie on the podcast. I want to come back again one day, so I'm not going to lie here tonight. He's actually kind of dumb.
Is he as smart as he needs to be?
When I say he's dumb, I'm joking around. The reason I named him Ed, it's Eddie, but from the Lion King, Ed the hyena. You remember that? How the tongue hanging out all the time?
Yeah.
During canine school, originally he was Eddie Murphy because my first dog was Axel Foley from Beverly Hills Cop. My next dog was Reggie Hammond from 48 Hours. I'm a big Eddie Murphy fan.
Clearly.
So my third dog was Eddie Murphy. But then through school, I said, you know what? You're no Eddie Murphy. You are Ed the Lion King.
You're just Ed.
Ed the hyena is what you
Just
are.
Ed.
He is just awesome though. He is so much fun. Not too bright, but he's great. Great
And such a
tracker.
sweet dog.
He is a lover.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. He's a Shepherd Mal. He's got the half German Shepherd, half Belgian Malinois, and both sides show.
So why do you use the combination as opposed to just Malinois or just Shepherds?
Right. When we go to our vendors, we look at all the dogs they have. They have German Shepherds, Belgian Malinois, and Shepherd Mals, all three types. And years past, we were always real big on German Shepherds. We're like, the Shepherds, they're real stable. They're a lot calmer than the Mals. And we found throughout the years, the Shepherd Mals are kind of like the best of both worlds. The Mals, again, amazing dogs. Belgian Malinois are amazing dogs. But they're not, in my opinion, they're such high drive that they're very hard to control. Shepherds are great too, but they're not that level of drive. And every dog is different. But we have found that the Shepherd Mals are kind of like the best of both worlds. We call them the 79 Ford F-150s. They're kind of like, they're going to crank up every single time. It's just we really like the Shepherd Mals a lot.
And that's a trend, I guess, that's been, the last 5 to 7 years, something like that.
Definitely,
We've been picking those up. So.
We went from only Shepherds to we eventually transitioned to Belgian Malinois, and then, like you said, the past 3 or 4 years, every time we go to train or test dogs, those Shepherd Malinois just always impress us so much with their drive.
Is it one parent is one parent is the other?
Yes.
Or is it, okay.
Yep. Yes, it is.
Well, no, as opposed to like one Shepherd Malinois with another Shepherd Malinois and their puppies, which would,
Yeah.
Got it. Let's get into like centimorgans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
centimorgans.
All right, so that's another one because I've listened to a million demos and I hear the questions too. So how do you get a dog? How does that work? What's that process? Where do they come from?
The vendor we primarily use right now is up in Ocala area, PSD canines. We go up there and we'll call first and say, listen, we have a need for, let's say, 2 dogs. And the owner of the company invites us up, okay, come up on whatever day. We'll go up there and he'll say, I have 10 or 12 dogs for you to look at. And it's a full day. He'll get dogs out for us, and the first thing we do is that test I was telling you about earlier, the hunt test. And we'll take the screwdrivers and we'll throw them into the field, and we'll start narrowing down our search. Like some dogs, you get them out and you're like, ooh, put that one away. We don't want to see that one the rest of the day. Just get rid of him right now. And we'll narrow it down to maybe 4 or 5 dogs. And okay, we like these 4 or 5. Then we move on to the tracking portion. And these dogs have no training, so they have no idea what we want them to do.
And how old are they?
12 months, generally about 12 months old.
Are you sure?
No, that's what they tell us. The passports are handwritten, so they could be 9 months. Supply and demand. We are seeing a much younger dog coming across from Europe. And all that really does is we have to slow down our training a little bit. Let's say they say they're 12 months, they're actually 9 or 10 months old. We'll just slow down the training with them, not be so aggressive with it, and they turn into great dogs. It just takes us a little bit longer to get to where we need to be with the dog. But then we do our tracking test, and again, they have no idea what we're doing with them. They've never tracked anything before, but they can't help it genetically. They put their nose to the ground, and what we're looking for is that crazy high drive. They got to get to a tug toy. We'll take a tug toy, we'll walk out 30, 40 paces, and tease them up while they're on harness, and we're throwing a toy up in the air like, hey, you want this? And they're spinning in circles like, I got to have that toy. And then we just walk off, get out of the picture, and the handler will take the dog and place them on task, like just not even saying anything, just let them go. And the dogs who keep their nose down and actually go straight to that tug toy without seeing where it's at in the grass, that's a dog we like. So we go to that portion. Then we go to environmental. Once we've narrowed it down to, let's say we need 2 dogs, down to 4 dogs. Okay, these 4 we love. Let's see who's environmentally strong. The vendor that we use has a huge barn, an enclosed barn, and he has all kinds of things set up inside the barn, like chains, buckets, things like that, slick floors, and a lot of noise, like rattling chains, throwing things on the ground. And we'll get the dog, has to go down a hallway, to the very end where we're at with like a sleeve, let's say. We'll have the sleeve on, and then they know how to bite. They know that's fun. So we'll be actually throwing things down in front of them, loud noises, rattling chains in the air. And the dogs who don't even, throwing buckets down on the ground, and gotta jump over buckets. All these things we're doing to see if they're going to crack, like, whoa, this is uncomfortable. I don't like this at all.
Yeah.
And the dogs who are the strongest with those are the ones we pick that have the strongest environmental. Now, if it doesn't work out, we generally see once we get the dogs, first thing we do is take them to the vet. Once we select the 2 dogs, we take them to the vet, and once they pass the vet for their hips, their shoulders, their teeth, all that, then we take them out and just start working with them and see how they do. At any point during that canine school, they start doing something we don't like. They start going backwards, or we're like, ooh, there's an issue with that dog. He doesn't like whatever, fill in a blank. We're like, you know what? Let's not take a chance. Let's just send this one back. We'll start over again with a new one. And the vendor has always been really good with us. They have that contract. We have a really good working relationship. We just call them and say, hey, how many dogs do you have left? Oh, normally they'll say, hey, the 3 you really like, they're still here. So we'll get back up there as quick as we can to get that dog from another agency, gets them before we get them. So that's pretty much it.
And how much are the dogs?
11,500 as of today.
Wow. And you were talking about Europe. The dogs are from overseas.
That's correct, yes. All the dogs we get are European dogs. They come from all over. Poland. We have dogs from Poland, Italy, France, Hungary. I can sit here all day long. And people always ask,
why?
Do they speak English?
They all speak English, because I am not smart enough to learn all those languages. So yeah, they all learn English. And the reason we get them from Europe, I'm sure there's amazing vendors here in the United States that breed dogs. We have just found the companies that we work with right now are so good at what they do in Europe, and they're so easy to work with as far as like return policies and things like that. But we're never going to say, oh, I'll never buy an American vendor dog. We got to find one we really like. As of right now, all the European dogs, the vendors have been really good with us.
Well, I mean,
The Bloodhounds are American, though.
They are.
US,
Kentucky,
yeah.
Leachfield, Kentucky.
yeehaw.
Yes.
But I mean, also, Europeans are a little more hardcore about breeding dogs. I mean, they're working dogs over there.
Absolutely, yes. They breed their dogs. Actually, we had a guy come from Germany probably about close to 15 years ago, and he was watching one of our dogs from Germany, and he had that German accent. He's like, where did that dog come from? And we got the dog from Germany, and he goes, that dog should not be here. He goes, we don't send you good dogs like that to America. We keep those dogs for ourselves. So it's like, okay.
Wow.
So
We got one of them then.
yes, he got through that dog, and he's a great dog too. But there's always something that they don't like about the dog in Europe. That's why they send him to the United States, where they because it's a sport in Europe. They work those dogs like crazy, and it's that's a whole nother story for another podcast.
So we get like the slightly damaged floor models or the...
Pretty much. I didn't want to say it, but Eddie is pigeon-toed. He doesn't know it, so let's not hurt his feelings.
I won't
Okay,
tell
we
us.
won't
I
say
won't
He
that.
has a
tell
little
us.
pigeon.
Won't say
But a sport arena, he would look bad with his pigeon toes. In America, I don't care about your pigeon toe. Do catch bad
Yeah,
guys.
he's
That's what I
working,
want you
so.
to do.
Right.
Yeah.
But in a sport over there in a ring, they'd be like, look at that dog, the way he's standing. That they take the points off for that, stuff like that. Whereas we don't care.
Eddie's always a winner with us.
He
Thank
is.
you. He's a lover.
So what else about Canine? What's next for Canine? Is there anything y'all are working on that's exciting?
Always.
I mean, dogs are always exciting.
You know me and my ADHD. I'm always trying to push for new things and new
Right.
ideas. And right now, the big thing is for us is our facility is over 20 years old, and I think we've kind of outgrown it a little bit. And what I'm working on right now is not happen right now, but in the next 10, 15 years, hopefully we'll have a bigger facility. And what we're really shooting for is an indoor training facility, because right now,
That would be
everything we
nice.
do, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Everything we do is outside. So during the summer months, you can imagine what it's like on training nights, pouring down rain, things like that, or even during the day, if we're training in the afternoon, the summer heat makes it very difficult. So my vision for the K-9 unit when I'm gone, I just like to set the stones for it to begin, is an indoor training section and expand our kennels. Because right now, our facility has like 10 runs where we can house dogs in case of an emergency, and we have 16 dogs.
Right.
So we've our read-off room has 12 seats, and we have 16 handlers. So 4 got to stand in a read-off. So it's in the plans in the future. I would like to see it happen. Hopefully it will happen.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So you talked about, you touched on the fact that your wife works here. So that's got to be a fun dynamic at home.
Absolutely. Let's have something to talk about.
Yeah. So she is she's a lieutenant, right? North County. So shift commander.
She outranks you.
She does outrank me. She does.
She always did, but probably.
I'm not going to argue that.
My wife outranks me, so what would you expect?
Yep.
So how is that? I mean, you'd think that, if you do the same job as your spouse, like, it's, there's less explanation needed, right? Or,
Absolutely. Actually, we're therapists for each other too, quite honestly. It's, she gets home, she works nights also, and we'll get home and we'll debrief. We'll sit there and talk about stuff and just kind of, it's, obviously I married my best friend. There's no doubt about it. So that makes it a lot easier too. But
do we have like a on the soundboard? Yeah. Anyway.
But no, it's been great. 21 years of marriage, another cop. And I always tell people in the classes that I teach, I do a lot of teaching outside. I'm like, whatever you do not come to the sheriff's office to try to find love and all that stuff. And of course I'm sitting up there going, but my wife is a deputy sheriff officer. So don't listen to what I'm saying.
Don't listen to me at all.
But it's really good. I have zero complaints with my wife being a cop. And it does, like you said, Ricky, it makes it a lot easier explaining things when you do have a rough night, you see something horrible, and both of us have seen things that you're like, you get home and all you want to do is cry, and there's somebody there for you. You're just like, yep, you get it 100%.
Yeah. So. You guys have a lot of confidence in each other's abilities. You told me one story about she gave you a task to do when you were working in different agencies. And
yes. We have a lot of faith in each other. We kind of like complement each other. I'm more the tactical side of things, and she's definitely very smart and very calculated and just very good at what she does. But at the time, I got a call that a friend of hers from Clearwater Police Department, his car was broken into and his service weapon was stolen, along with his taser and his radio and all his equipment. So she came home, and it had probably been a day or two, and she said, I need you to do me a favor. She goes, go find his equipment tonight. Okay.
Just like that.
Just like that. Go find his stuff. Please go find his stuff tonight. It was in Dunedin area. So I went back to my old CID days, my old burglary days, and I'm like, okay, this is where the guy lives. So I'm going to go to that area. Obviously, statistically speaking, it's a juvenile broke into this guy's car, because that's what happens. So I parked my cruiser with Axel, and I parked it way down the street off Salon, and I walked to a wooded area, and I just stood there for 2 hours. I'm standing in this wooded area. I'm just waiting for the right thing to happen, just waiting for somebody to come out on foot walking around, because these kids are out doing these things at night. And here comes this guy and this girl come walking down the street. They're bebopping. I jump out of the woods. I'm like, hey. They're like, ah. I'm like, it's like, sheriff's office. How you guys doing tonight? And you guys all know me. I pride myself on being social. I'm not the kind of cop who's like, show me your hands all the time and stuff like that. I'm like, how's it going? And they're like, oh, you scared us. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. So we start talking, and I'm like, guys, you got to be careful out here walking around at night. I said, I heard there's guns out here and stuff. People with guns running around. And so the guy's looking at me. He can tell he wants to say something to me, and I'm like, maybe he's my suspect. And so he tells his girlfriend, hey, just keep going. I'll meet you back at the house. So she walks away. He goes, hey, man, I know what you're doing. I said, what am I doing? He goes, you're looking for that cop stuff, the cop's gun that got stolen. I said, how do you know that? He goes, I know who did it. I'm like, really? So I got a pretty good rapport with him, started talking to him, and I ended up giving him $20, quite honestly.
No, you didn't.
I gave him $20 right out of my pocket because he was giving me intel. I don't care. And he was not a confidential informant. That was just a citizen contact that I was so happy this guy was giving me a lead. I'm like, hey, pal, here's a 20 for you.
Could have kept it for a Louis Vuitton bag. Wow.
So he told me the suspect. Of course, he said the kid's name who stole the stuff. And of course, I was very familiar with him because we had dealt with him 100 times.
Gave him 20.
So, hey, it was the best $20 I spent in a long
If you
time.
have information, talk to Sergeant Kilian about it. It might turn into money for
I'm
you.
going to start carrying my checkbook with me, Ricky.
Checkbook.
But
Did you take Apple Pay?
Yeah.
what? What is that?
I don't like apples. I'm an orange guy.
So we ended up activating a bunch of detectives and stuff, and we sat on the house, and the detectives responded out. We ended up doing a traffic stop on his girlfriend at like 3 o'clock in the morning. And we got her in custody, and we ended up going to the house where the parents lived. We made contact, and they gave us consent to go in, and we got the kid, and we located the firearm and I want to say his portable radio. So fast forward about 6:30 in the morning. I usually get off at 6 in the morning, and my wife, she's calling me, and she's worried. It's late. What's going on? And back then we didn't have PCAD. She couldn't see what was going on. So she called me. She goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm just standing here with a Smith & Wesson 40 caliber in my hand. It belongs to Clearwater Police Department." She's like, "No way." She goes, "You're kidding me." I said, "I got it." So that was a fun. That was a good one for me. That was a fun one. That was one of those nights you go home like, I got something good done tonight.
Right.
Definitely got something good done. And I think policing, we've forgotten some of that kind of stuff in policing where we count on DNA, touch DNA, and we've lost our ability to really talk to people, like get out and beat the bushes. And that's what policing is, talking to people, getting out of your car and not just driving through neighborhoods. And because had those kids been walking down the street and I didn't just drove past them, I'm never going to get anything out of that. You got to get out and walk. And now the way I did it was a little off, I guess you could say, standing in the woods, but
it worked.
It did its job. Yeah,
exactly.
It worked. Just like the gold dust test kit.
Exactly. And that's the way I've always been, thank goodness, successful in law enforcement is talking to people and getting out. And I know we call it community policing, but it's really just policing, getting out and actually having contacts with people and not acting like a jerk and actually being decent to people makes a huge difference. And I try to teach all of our new recruits that. Be civil with people. Don't be nasty, even if they're nasty to you. Maybe they're just having a bad day. And there will come a point if you have to do something, put hands on or whatever, you get to that position, that's fine. But don't go looking to be a jerk. I know that sounds terrible, but I think we've all seen law enforcement in some agencies where officers and deputies get out and they actually cause the issue to happen.
Right.
And you're not going to get anywhere with that.
So that's a good, and as we're kind of winding down, you've been a cop for over 30 years. You've been in training. You've done a lot of different things. And just like the equipment and the resources have changed, just the whole state of law enforcement has changed. What, if you were gonna, well, you do address new recruits and you talk to new recruits, but what do you share with them as far as how law enforcement has changed over the years and how they can be successful?
Absolutely, and I really believe in de-escalation techniques. Believe it or not, I like fighting too, jiu-jitsu on my own time and stuff like that. And where I'm going with that is, a properly trained deputy can be confident that when you have to go hands-on with somebody, and I tell recruits this, but it's so much easier having your game on to make it to be, you can de-escalate them because you're confident with yourself and if you carry yourself and train the way you're supposed to mentally and physically in life, you could be a much better deputy sheriff because you don't have to act that. You don't have to act like you're tougher than what you are. And I think a lot of cops are insecure at themselves. And I hate to say that, but I think a lot of cops they can't fight very well. So they go straight to a taser or they try to, like in the jail, they like yell at you like, man, back off. And all they're doing is, we call it fronting in the jail. I think a lot of cops get out of their cars with their real tight shirts on and they're like, hey, get over here. Show me your hands. Get your hands out of your pocket. All that kind of stuff. And that doesn't need to be done. I think we can get our job done. Like, hey, man, come here. I always joke with people like when I do a traffic stop, I go up and I get a driver's license and my thing is I come back and there are no warrants. So I'm like, hey, good news. The FBI's not looking for you tonight. That always makes people laugh. They're like, oh, okay, that's good news. I'm like, yeah, you don't need to go up and be like, all that gruff nastiness. So you can be a lot nicer person if you know how to take care of yourself and you train well, mentally and physically. If you do that, you don't have to be a jerk to people.
It's back to being people. We're all people.
Absolutely.
Good stuff.
Thank you for having me.
Well, so before we let you go, we do always like to make sure we give everybody an opportunity. So, when we were talking with Detective Chalmers, it was like, obviously you're working cold cases. Is there anything you want to share with the public? As far as, K-9's perspective, whether it's, we talked about obviously what to do if you hear the helicopter overhead, see the dog in the yard, or, things like that. But what about, what is it that keeps you all out working the most? Is there anything you want to share with the public as far as, I know where you're going with it.
PSA, please, first of all, lock your doors. Lock your doors, your car. And I'm a deputy sheriff. And on my nights off, I'll be laying in bed. I'm sure everyone sitting in this room has done this. You're in your bed, and when I get out of my truck, I hit that door lock like 19 times, and then I check the door handle, and then I'm laying in bed. I'm like, I know I did it, but let me just go check one more time so I can sleep tonight. And I will physically go out there and check it one more time. Like, okay, now I can go to sleep for sure. So what we see all night long is unlocked car doors. And again, we're all human beings, so we forget things, but especially if you own a firearm, I mean, gun ownership, it's a responsibility. It is a responsibility. If you own a gun, you're responsible for that gun. Don't leave it in your car overnight. Take it out of your car, lock your doors up, So many guns are out there on the street right now from unlocked cars, and people don't have their serial numbers of their guns. It's like write that when you purchase that firearm, write the serial number down, put that serial number in your gun safe in your house or wherever you're just going to store it, so that if it is unfortunately stolen, at least we can track that gun. Whereas, if you don't have a serial number, we check out with somebody with that gun, we run it in the system, and it says, it's not stolen, here you go. And they get their gun back. So lock your cars, write down your serial numbers to your guns, and that's the best I got for you. Use common sense.
We talk about it. People ask, what's the number one crime? Well, it's property crime. Then it's unlocked car burglaries, and then 85% of the car burglaries are because the car's unlocked. And 100% preventable crime.
100%. And on top of that, I know we got to go soon. But
no, I just got a text. This is an Apple Watch.
I don't like that kind of stuff. You don't need Apple Watches. I got a nice watch right here. It tells the time just fine, Ricky. But anyway. Your car's out in the garage, or in the driveway. If you've got a remote control in your car and it's unlocked, they have access to your house now.
Yep.
We've had burglaries, home burglaries that started out as car burglaries, turned to residential burglaries, occupied. You're sleeping and you're thinking you're safe, and the bad guy's out there pushing a button to your garage door, and now they're inside your house. So that's another thing to think about. Again, it's just. It's a chore. I know it's a chore, and a lot of people say, "Well, that's ridiculous. They're breaking these cars." Well, they're doing it.
Right.
So let's do something to fight back a little bit, because we can't be everywhere at one time. So you do your part too to lock your car up.
Then you got the dogs out there running, the helicopter flying, forensics coming out, and you just lock the door and save some resources.
Absolutely, and we got a really good chance of catching them.
Yeah. Well, we've certainly with canine out there between that and the helicopter.
Yep, absolutely.
It's mostly canine.
Yeah, the helicopter's very nice though.
I'll say it's mostly
They get the good video of what you do.
Yeah,
absolutely,
they do.
Yeah.
Sometimes not such pretty video. I have fallen off of fences, and I have tripped over parking blocks, and I'll pull their video, and they're laughing at me the whole time up in the helicopter. And they're like, "You okay?" I'm like, "Okay." And you can't breathe. You knock the wind out of yourself. I'm like, "I'm okay." Oh, this hurts in my 50s. What am I doing out here? Yeah. Once again, back to the beginning. I should have been a firefighter. I could be at the firehouse right now watching TV.
Well, you heard it here from Sergeant Kilian. Lock your doors. Thanks, Mike, for coming on and joining us. We
Thank you
appreciate
so
the
much.
conversation and the storytelling. That's what it's all about. For our listeners, you're welcome. For our listeners, we want to hear from y'all. We want feedback. I would love to get to a place where we can take some questions or lead some conversations with requests from our listeners. So you can reach out to us on at lets56 at pcsonet.com. That's LETS56 at pcsonet.com.
Hey, you took my line.
You want to do it?
I always say that. No, it's too late. You've done it.
Well,
That's LETS56 at pcsonet.com.
see, but she's not a serious person. She's laughing at the end trying to do it. But
it's a fun show.
It is a fun show.
Yeah.
Ashley, do you have anything else? Any parting words?
I do not.
Damn, I was hoping for the blank stare.
Nope.
I didn't get it.
Nope, not this time. I was
Will
ready.
you text me?
You're gonna get so many
Absolutely.
texts. Can we put his
tennis.
number out to the public on
I'll
this?
just put it out there.
Yes, he needs texts, guys.
Tennis,
anything.
pickleball, scuba diving.
We're going to
everything.
Chili's.
He does.
Any of it.
He does text though.
I do text.
Yeah.
He texts.
Yes, I do.
So he plays this old man game, but he's pretty hip.
Absolutely.
Pretty hip. You're still on the
Texting
MySpace,
has
aren't you?
been around for like 22 years now. So texting, yeah.
22.
It was really
Well, no,
hard.
I just made
it was really hard.
Well,
One
it's
hand.
pretty
I mean,
time.
Like
it
with
felt
the-
like you knew it.
Back when the flip phones were like to do C, you had to hit the
Right.
button 1, 2, 3 times.
T9.
Yeah,
That's what
that was
called.
too hard. That was.
That was.
A pain.
We're spoiled.
We are. We are.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.